Hi guys, today I will be talking about William Glindtvad. Um, he's a centre back that plays in the second tier at Hilleröd. I hope I've pronounced that right. They signed him early this year, I believe in February, from FC Copenhagen. Transfermarkt doesn't state what the fee was or if it was on a free, so I'm assuming it's an undisclosed amount or a very low amount. And he came through their youth ranks also. So he has a taste of the first tier and what a big club is like in Denmark. So to start off with his strengths, I think the first thing that stood out for me was the fact his physical presence and athletic frame compared to most of the players within the league, including the top tier. I've got the chance to see him on multiple occasions, and his strength and his pace stand out for a defender. And it's very rarely you get both, especially for a player aged just 19. He's particularly dominant in the aerial duels, and he's comfortable carrying the ball in the build-up. The way Hilleröd play, I'll go into on another slide, but they tend to play a 3-4-3, and he's on the right side of the 3 at the back, and he usually carries the ball out, drives forward at times, or passes out to the right flank, or covers the space left behind by the right wing back. So he's comfortable going forward with the ball, passing, has a good range of passing, short and long. He's the essential skill that I believe he possesses more than anything is his defensive positioning. Again, for such a young person, he's very aware where to stand, when to stand, given that he also has the physical attributes to help him out as well within his position. And he's very confident as a player, which you can see. In terms of development, long range passing, at times they don't come off. He does like to play a long diagonal to the left hand side at times, but he does it too many times for my liking. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's not to say he can't do it. He can pass long range, but it's probably best to do it a few times in the game, especially if you're a possession building team. He has slight lapses in concentration. I think at times he tends to switch off because he believes he'll always beat any player, whether it's for pace or for strength. So sometimes he does give the opposition sort of like a head start. If he's a little bit more aggressive, then it's incredibly hard to beat him within this league. And that's why I've also got complacency in ground duels. I think if he's aggressive enough, he's got controlled aggression, but he could be even better. The comments I've provided a bit more in detail, so I've broken it down into physicality, technical, tactical, and psychological. I'll just briefly go through them. As I've stated, build and his frame, he's very mobile for a big guy. I believe his height is 1.83, doesn't state anywhere. I've seen 2 meters somewhere, but 1.83 seems to be his height, but he's still a growing lad, so at 19 he could become maybe taller. He uses his body well in both the air and on the ground when he needs to shield the ball or shield it out to play, get in front of the player when he's retained it, etc. Technically, again, in the air, his balance and ball composure, especially for a big guy, his distribution suits a possession-based player team. He could also play direct counter-attacking style if he's able to use his long ball, well, at least improve his long ball accuracy. Tactically, again, for me, his positional awareness is, beyond his years. I think he's very mature. and he's very versatile. He plays currently in a back three, but I think he could also play in a back four as a central partnership. And psychologically, this is probably where he needs to mature a little bit more. I mean, he does have controlled aggression. As I said, he has small lapses in concentration now and again in the 1v1s, and he can be a little bit overconfident in his abilities. But overall, I genuinely believe he has the level to play, certainly in the top tier in Denmark. That is, he can definitely play, I believe, for a title challenging team. He already is playing for Hilleröd, who are currently second in tier 2, so they're already a title chasing team. But I think he can make the step up to one of the big teams in Denmark, and possibly, if he can develop even further in 2-3 years time, in his early 20s, I think he could get a move to Europe. That's how highly I rate him, to be honest. I'll just show you, these are the 3 games that I've pinpointed. I believe I've watched all 3, and he played 90 minutes across the 3. So on the left hand side, I've just put in what the lineups have been. As you can see, it's always a 3-4-3, and he's always on the right hand side of that 3. He's played centre back. You can see from his heat map, he's always on the right hand side, but he does move forward. And the interesting thing, more so for me, is the passing. As you can see in the game against Lyngby, he done quite well with his passing, but in the game against Koga, he attempted multiple diagonal left balls, and most of them didn't come off. But then against Horsens, maybe we had a bit more space. He was a lot more on the ball, passing. Work rate was higher. And at the bottom, I've got defensive contributions across the 3 games also. So the orange represents tackles, the blue dot represents clearances, the green dot represents recoveries, and the red dot represents block shots. So overall, you can see not just in the box, but around the box, midfield, he does make tackles, he does push forward, he does clear. So, and especially higher up in the pitch, if you can see in the Horsens game and the Lyngby game, he recovers the ball, well, near the centre circle and around there. So he does get forward also. And if I just go back to the slide, so all in all, his risk assessment, there's no substantial injury on record. Adaptation, given that he's Danish, he's come through the youth system, he's very used to the league, he's very used to playing, or being at least in the top tier in Denmark. So he's used to the football, the social side, the weather, maybe the pitch conditions. Tactically, again, I think he's very easy to integrate because physically he's one of the strongest players I've seen across the top and second tier so far. And he has the pace also to match that. In terms of fee, Transfer Markt have him at about 200,000 euros. I've seen 700 plus elsewhere, but either or, it's going to be less than $1 million by the looks of it. And depending on who was to buy him, I would say he could easily fit in a middle tier team to a top tier team in the first division. And probably start off salary would be at the lower end of the scale of the starters in those teams. But if he's able to develop, I think he would end up being one of the top players within the team, if not the league. So there's a lot of potential there. So all in all, my recommendation would be to sign him immediately. If not, definitely a higher priority target for those that are looking for a right-sided centre-back. As I said, physically he's excellent already. His technical and tactical abilities are at a high level for such a young player. He's versatile, he can play in different formations, different styles, whether that be possession-based, counter-attacking. And given that, again, he's 19, he has a very high ceiling to develop, which also means he has a very high resale value. And that's it.